Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam. Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunuyam Devaah Bhadram Pashyema Akshabhiryajatraah Sthirairangai Istushtuvagum Sastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddhashravaah Swasti nः Pusha Vishwavedaah Swasti nastarkshyo Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspatirdadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamas Tuma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Nantaf Pragyam Na Bahish Pragyam Na Ubhayataf Pragyam Na Pragyana Ghanam Na Pragyam Na Pragyam Adrishtam Avyavaharyam Agrahyam Alakshanam Achintyam Avyapadeshyam Ekatma Pratyayasaram Prapancha Upashamam Shantam Shivam Advaitam Chaturtam Manyante Sa Atma Savikyeyaha. So the second part of the seventh mantra, Adrishtam, Avyavaharyam, etc. Sometimes by our acharyas, Swami Dayananji, I think, has also written a book on this, and others have also, is called the meditation on the meditator. And so this is very nicely explained in the Drikdishya Viveka. And we went over this to a certain extent, and we'll continue to fine-tune it. Once the understanding of what the truth about ourselves and Ishvara and Atma and all that is fairly clear, so that we can even say we are jnanis, we have a certain understanding. Then the question is, how do you make it so real that you can see it all the time and live your life with that through meditation, nididhyasanam. So this is also called ekagrata. Different names for it. But basically it just means to put it all together. So putting it all together has been recommended as two ways. One is to see yourself, don't lose yourself as you have experiences. So this is what is called in Drikdishya Viveka, Drishya Anuviddha Samadhi. So it says there are two kinds of, so the word Samadhi is used synonymously with nididhyasanam and meditation, if you want to call it Vedantic meditation, is of one of two kinds. So one it says is that, we often, a lot of the students, we all say that, I know the theory, but I can't practice in my life. This is the common refrain everybody has. And so we have talked about this before, that that is not exactly the right way to look at it from the standpoint of, because it is nothing to be done. If the understanding of the self is subject to like cooking, where you have to get the recipe. Now, these days, you get all these wonderful recipes from YouTube. So you first look at the YouTube, recipe. Here are the ingredients and so on. And then you have not really done anything until you actually try it. So there is a theory and practice. In the understanding of the Atma, it is not like that. However, having said that, what is it like? Then what? So there it is said that at the moment, without the understanding of the Vedantic truth, without the teaching, without the prakriya, you have your daily experiences of life, which means that things happen to you. You have various good things, bad things, not, neutral things. And that's how you view things, and you have your own experiences. You have sukha dukkha in your own mind, and this is the way we are. So this would not be called a meditation. But there is a way to convert the experiences into a meditation. How? So there it is said that the best way is, please recall that there is in fact a sakshi and a karta bhokta in all the experiences. So see that there cannot be an experience without you. Be cognizant of that fact. Basically what happens is we ignore that. Oh, I'm there, so what? What's the big thing? But the big thing is that, really speaking, you cannot have an experience without yourself. You are always the constant. And as you see that you are in fact not only a constant, but some very beautiful substance. I was thinking about the other day in Vedanta, there is a very important word called vastu. Vastu means the real thing. So, for example, in the case of golden ornaments, then the ornaments are not the vastu, but the gold is the vastu. That is the basis from which all the things are. So it's called vastu. I think a very good English translation of the word vastu is substance. Substance. What is the real substance? Going back to the meditation of the experience, the meditation related to the experience is that as you begin to understand that you are the substance behind the experience, then your meditation becomes meaningful. And then you don't throw the baby with the bathwater. Because right now, when we have experiences, we just ignore the substance and say, oh, that's not important. That's not important. And so, as you begin to not forget that you are the substance behind all experiences, that turns into a meditation of experiences, meditation with experiences. So this is what is called Drishyanuviddha Samadhi. Then there is another Samadhi, which is called Shabdanuviddha Samadhi, which is what the second part of the seventh mantra, Adrishtam Avyavaharyam, is. And that means a samadhi, a meditation, where the drishya, the set of experiences, do not participate. You don't need experiences in order to do this samadhi. So here it doesn't mean there is sukshma prapancha, sthula prapancha, any experiences, nothing. It is purely on who you are. And because who you are has not been properly explored, then some thoughts, some ideas, is now being given in that manner. That meditation is on the vastu that you are. And that is what the second line of the seventh mantra is now unfolding. It's explaining. You know, it's interesting. In several classes back, we had taken the example of a ghatakasha and a mahakasha. If you remember, a vessel which is filled with water, and how that is simply a variation of the total space. So the vessel space, including the reflection of the space in the water in the vessel. Remember, that was the thoughts, that was the Sukshma Sharira, and the Sthula Sharira, which is the body of the vessel. And how we thought that all of those are transitory. They come and go. They have a beginning and an end. And they depend on the total Akasha. And the total Akasha, which is Ananta, is the reality. So the Anavachinna, the limitless Akasha, is the reality, and the Avachinna, the limited Akasha, is just a superimposition on that, which comes and goes. So we saw that example. There is another example which is just as, if not more so, useful in understanding the Shabda Anuviddha Samadhi. So what is that? So here it says that take the example of a child who's examining an ornament. Let's say you have a 2-year-old That's what I'm kind of thinking of, because pretty soon they'll grow out of it. But I have a grandson, Arjun, who is 2 years and 4 months old. And I know his thinking, what he's taking, and so on. Suppose I were to explain to Arjun, Arjun, this is this is a ring. I don't wear a ring, but supposing I were to wear a ring, I would say, Arjun, this is a ring. So he says, what is a ring? I said, this is a ring. You see how I can put it on my finger, and then I can take it out, and you can spin it if you want to on a table. This is a ring. Then I take supposing I were to wear a necklace, a golden necklace, and I would take that out and I'll say, Arjun, this is a necklace. Necklace? What is a necklace? This is a necklace. And you can actually, it's like a chain, and you can wear it on your neck. So he says, okay, that's fine. I understand that. Okay, now I got it. Then I can repeat it to him and I'll say, what is this? He'll say, that is a ring. What is this? This is a necklace. Now if I tell him, Arjun, they are both made of the same thing. And that is going to take a little while for him to grasp. He will eventually grasp it. That yes, this is also made out of a gold. This is also made out of a gold. And they are interchangeable. You can melt it. That will take a little bit more time for people to understand. I have a 4-year-old granddaughter. I think she would understand by that time that, yeah, these are interchangeable and all that. So here's the thing. The ring has a very particular name and form. This in Vedanta is called Lakshana. Lakshana. Lakshana means something that can be described in terms of properties which is different from everything else around. A unique characteristic is called Lakshana. So the ring has a Lakshana, and the necklace also has a Lakshana. Everything has a Lakshana. All the things that we see, tables, chairs, carpets, sofas, walls, these all have a particular name and a form and a function, a utility, some relationship, isn't it? They all have lakshanas. But in the example of the ring and the necklace, the gold is the vastu without a lakshana. In that example, as an example, because one can argue that even gold has a lakshana because it has a weight, it has a shine. Yes, so the examples are not perfect, but you see the relative aspect of it, that a ring and a necklace have some kind of an appearance which is defined by lakshana, but it is not a vastu. The vastu is the gold. And the ringness and the necklacelessness are the lakshanas. And to be able to see this, the interplay between lakshana and vastu takes a little while. It takes some thinking, some growth, some ability to grasp the interplay. This is the example. Now we take that example and see our own self from that perspective, from that example. Just like we saw the Ghatakasha and Mahakasha, also applying it to ourselves, here also in this example of the ornaments of gold, we see applying it to ourselves. Let us see how. So, in the example of the gold and the ornaments, there is some phenomena which separates a child from an adult, separates the understanding of just the ring without its underlying vastu for a child, and for an adult it changes where your drishti, your vision is that on the gold, not necessarily on the ring. So there is a phenomena. Phenomena meaning that you can look at it one way or you can look at it another way. Right? That phenomena to us is what is called Maya Shakti. In our case, there is a Maya Shakti that creates a vision of just the lakshanas, but not of the vastu. And the Maya Shakti is very interesting because it creates that alternative vision, but not permanently. So just like in the case of the ring and so on, and also, as soon as Arjun grows up to another year or two, he would also understand that this is just a falsity. It is just a lakshana. The real vastu is the gold. He will understand that. Similarly, when we understand upon enquiry, so what happens is that until it is enquired, so this is what is called avicharita siddham dvaitam. Until it is enquired, the Maya Shakti basically hides the vastu from the avastu. And it makes the avastu meaning all the things on the lakshanas, as the real thing. And there is hides the vastu because it mixes up the vastu and the avastu, and that's all that you look at. Okay? I left my water on the table, so let me go get it, take a sip of water, and I'll continue. I'll be right back. So what happens is that in the case of the gold and the golden ornaments, the common element, the common vastu between both the ring and the necklace is not appreciated. Somehow, that is more of a subtle aspect of, that's the phenomena, the more subtle aspect of the thinking which is not appreciated. That's what happens in the case of a child. Very similar to that is our situation. How? Now, let's now look into it. What happens is that the Maya Shakti, which creates the birth of a human being, you and I, we are born with that Maya Shakti. It's already there. It's a beginningless thing. And that Maya Shakti prevents me for seeing the common ingredient between me, the drashta, what's called the drashta. Drashta meaning a human being that is seeing, which transforms into a karta and a bhokta, a doer and an enjoyer. But let's call it a common name, drashta. So the Maya Shakti hides, the Maya Shakti creates a vision of a drashta and a drishya as two separate entities. You see? So let me repeat that. The Maya Shakti, the same Shakti that allows a young 2-year-old boy to look upon both the ring and the necklace as separate things, not appreciating that they are the same common vastu. Similarly, the Maya Shakti in my life makes me as the drashta and the world that I experience as a drishya. Okay, so let's go to the next step. This is what Maya Shakti does. Then, through the teaching of the Vedanta, it is pointed out that there is a common element, a common vastu between the drashta and the drishya. So observe that the drashta is the same vastu which is Chit Swarupam, Jnana Swarupam, awareness, makes it into awareful. You see, this is what happens. The Chit Swarupam, Jnana Swarupam is now split into two parts. One becomes drashta swarupam, which is also made out of chit alone, and drishya swarupam, which is made out of the same chit swarupam. Not only that, the vastu, which is chit swarupam, sat swarupam, imparts its sat to both the parts, drashta and the drishya. So both the drashta and the drishya enjoy the sat of the vastu, and they enjoy the chit of the vastu. Not only enjoy, they are actually made up of the same chit. And so now what happens is, I don't see until it is pointed out to me that this interchange of the experiences of life is nothing but the interplay of the Maya Shakti that hides the fact that both the ingredients come from the same vastu. Not only do they come from the same vastu, they are the same vastu, even while we are there. And what happens is that I am totally focused on myself as a drashta, as a karta, as a bhokta, separating the drishya from me, separating the world from me, separating the jagat from me, not realizing that this is like a dream. This is exactly what happens in the dream. And the same thing happens in the waking state. Because the same vastu gets split and the split is kind of like a movie. So like, if you were to bring that example in, so the movie consists, just look at it from this perspective, the movie consists of a script and a film and a projection of that film onto a screen. And it creates a sense of reality. So that's the movie. If you look at what happens in my life, our lives, what happens is we are born with a set of vasanas, samskaras, born with it. And as the Mahatmas say, that even my thinking of the world as my own experience is also part of the vasanas. The fact that I create a history, the fact that I create a future, I create the various worlds. This is all part of the vasanas. It's like a script that I really have perfected over years, lives, millions of lives. But it is like a film. There's no reality to it. So then what happens is that the film, in the example of the movie, becomes my mind. Actually is the makeup of the drashta. The mind is the film. My mind is it's separate from the drashta, from the human being that sees itself as a film. And it sees the projection of your life as experiences. And the Maya Shakti keeps the dichotomy alive. And you enjoy and suffer the consequences of that dichotomy, of this separation, not knowing that both of them have a common vastu, which is the form of a steady light. The steady light is the one, so in that particular example, both a steady light and a steady screen. But not knowing that I am the steady light that does not change, I feel like I am into two parts. So that's exactly what happens in our life. Then we have, so now if we see this, what we find is that both I, as a human being, as a drashta, is made up of awareness, pure awareness. Atma Swarupa, Sat Swarupa, Chit Swarupa, Ananda Swarupa. Like a steady light. So I am so affected by the Maya Shakti that I cannot see the unity of both the drashta and the drishya as being the same thing, which is me as the Atma. And I go through this process again and again. The dream is a very clear example of this phenomena. And so the Maya Shakti just scares me, that's it. Like a projection of a tiger would scare a 2-year-old. But it has no substance. All of this is just nothing but projection alone. So then, therefore, what Vedanta says is, listen, You are the vastu that does not have a lakshana. Alakshanam. Sa atma savigyeya. And it says that you are adrishtam. Adrishtam means you are like the light. Don't look upon yourself as where am I? You are the whole thing. You don't need to be seen. You are the very creator of the whole thing. You are never going to find, where am I? This is the meditation on the meditator. Adrishtam. You don't need to see yourself because you are the only Sat Swarupam there is. It's just a phenomenon, just an amazing thing, honestly. That to establish some things, as we saw in the example from last week, from the last class, that in order to see something, to establish something, you need a lot of things. You need eyes, you need a mind, you need some object, and you may or may not see it. You need the sun, adhyatmikam, adidaivam, adibhutam. You see all these factors. But to see yourself, do you need any one of them? In the Triktisha Viveka, just like you have these words, adrishtam, avyavaharyam, alakshanam, achintyam, avyapadeshyam, ekatma pratyaya saram. So similarly in the Driktisya Viveka also, there is a very brief, this is on on verse number 25. So what are the words? These are the words that we should use to understand that I am alakshanam. I am the very vastu. I don't need a lakshanam. The gold doesn't need to be described in that sense. That what is it? Is it a ring? What is the shape of it? What is the utility of it? How long will it last? How is it made? All those kinds of things are included in the lakshanam. But the gold is a lakshanam. Lakshana rahitam. So these are the words that we used in the seventh. Similarly, in the Driktisha Viveka, some words are used. They are all pretty much the same. Asangaha, Satchidanandaha, Swaprabha, Dvaita Varjitaha. These are the four things that it uses. Asangaha, Satchidanandaha, Swaprabha. So Swaprabha is also, just look at the words. Look at the words, how it described. So in the case of adrishtam, adrishtam means something which is but doesn't need to be seen the way we see things. This is what is called adrishtam. Right? We've been talking about this. So you can even say that can be described by the word Swatasiddha. Swatasiddha. Swatasiddha means that it exists without any help, without any relationship. So this is the need for Sat Swarupa, whereas the Sat is not dependent on anything. See, just consider that. So, for example, the Drashta. The Drashta and the Drishya, which is what my life consists of. Everybody's life consists of these two factors all the time. Both of them depend on things. As a Drashta, you can imagine, let's dissect it. What do I need? I need to have a body. So as soon as the person, the Atma, leaves the body is no longer a Drashta. I need a mind, Sukshma Sharira. I need food. There's a lot of things that I need as a Drashta. Similarly, there's a lot of things that I need as a Drishya. Because the Drishya in the Jagrat Avastha, in a waking state, is different from the Drishya in the Swapna Avastha. And it disappears in the Sushupti Avastha. So it also changes. It all depends on who you are seeing at what time. All dependent. So both the Drashta and the Drishya are not Swatasiddha. That's the point. But you are not like that. So this is what it says. You are neither the Drashta nor the Drishya. Both the Drashta and the Drishya are depending on you. And that you is Satsvarupa. Swatasiddha. Swatasiddha means you don't need anything. You don't need feed. You don't need food. You don't need any dependence. You don't need any friends. You don't need any relatives. Nothing. Swatasiddha. Asangaha. No connection. Amazing. And then, in order to know, do you need anything? As we were discussing, that in order to know a book, you need a lot of ingredients. You need your eyes, you need your mind. Just imagine the implications, all the things that you need for your eyes to be. They have to be healthy. Your mind, you need a thing sitting there. You need the light on it. To know anything other than yourself, you have so many ingredients. But to know yourself, what do you need? You don't need anything. You are Swaprabha. So the beautiful word, Swaprabha, just like you have Swasiddha, Swatasiddha. This is Swataprabha. You are already the light. Like in a film, you don't even need a projection. You are just a steady light. And that light is the substance. That is the vastu. The light, you as the person. Your reality is a steady light. And a steady light means what? It doesn't mean one that does not fluctuate. No. It is the very nature of the light which always is. So it's not a question of something which comes and goes and therefore it is steady. No. It is the very source of steadiness. You know, it's interesting, in making a distinction between what is called sentient and inert. Sentient and inert. So Chetana and Jada. So if you look at in daily living, what is called laukika in the worldly life, science, worldly life means everyday life and so on. How do we distinguish between Chetana and Jada? How do we know something is Chetana and something is Jada? What is the definition? So this is what is called paribhasha. Paribhasha means definition. How do you, even a lakshana, how do you define the distinction between Chetana and Jada? So this is called laukika paribhasha of Chetanatvam. Laukika paribhasha. Laukika means loke gamya. In the worldly life, what is the paribhasha? What is the definition? Here's what it is. If a thing moves without being prompted, without any help, if it moves, then it is Chetana. That often happens in our lives, that you see a bug somewhere and you're not sure whether this is a bug or there is some leftover food that is lying there. So what you do is you approach it with, hopefully with something. You don't want to be bitten by the bug, so you approach it with a pencil. And what you find is, if it doesn't move, even if you touch it with a pencil, then you say, oh, that's just a piece of food. It is not Chaitana. But suppose if you bring the pencil close to it and it starts moving, then you say, this is not Jada, it is Chaitana. So in the Laukika Paribhasha, the distinction between what is Jada and what is Chaitana depends upon whether it has some Sukshma Sharira or not, isn't it? Because the Sukshma Sharira will allow it to move. And it will move the Sthula Sharira. That's how it is. In Vaidika Paribhasha, in the definition of Vedanta, or the truth, the ultimate truth of our experiences, the distinction between Jada and Chaitana is different. How so? Because in the Vaidika Paribhasha, a Chaitana is one which lights up and is without any help. So in the case of the Vaidika Paribhasha, a bug moving is what? Jada. How is it a Jada? Actually, it is also Chaitana. But I'm just talking about the very movement of the bug on a table. It is Jada. Why is it Jada? Because it requires the help of Sukshma Sharira. It requires the help of a table to move. And so really everything in this whole creation is Jada, is inert, except you. Because you, sa atma sa vijñeyaha, is swata siddha, swayam prabha. So the distinction in Vaidika Paribhasha is that the Chaitanya is one which lights up the whole creation, the whole world, and lights up itself without any help. That is what is needed. So this is what it is called Asangaha Satchidanandaha Swaprabhaha Dvaitavarjitaha. So this requires some more thinking, and we will go into that. That really all the lights are nothing but the original light of you. Just like all electrical appliances are nothing but the electricity itself. There is simply a reflection, so that we will see later. But coming back to the Paribhasha, Akhandaha, Adrishtaha, Adrishtam, Abhyavaharyam. So let's look at avyavaharyam. So we have done what we have done of adrishtam. So summarizing, adrishtam means one which is the vastu, but you don't see it as a manifestation. It is behind all manifestations, but you don't see the gold is behind all ornaments, but you cannot see gold. If you want to see gold, you see any ornament you see. You don't need any particular ornament to define gold. So similarly here also, adrishtam means that it is not seen as an object, because it is, every object is pratibodha viditam matam. Kenopanishad. So it is the very substance of all manifestations, adrishtam. Then come, and we saw alakshanam already. Let's look at avyavaharyam. Avyavaharyam means, so vyavahara means something which requires some transactions. That's what vyavahara is. So there needs to be something happening, some kind of relationship, some transactions. That's what vyavahara is. And so in the case of the ring, for example, you can put it on, you can remove it, you can put it along with the rest of the things. And if there is a sukshma sharira, then of course we have a lot of interplay between people, situations, good, bad, all of that is vyavahara. But the gold itself is avyavaharyam. It is the very substance, but it doesn't participate in changing, creating, dissolving. It is already there. Similarly, in our case also, we sometimes become a drashta, sometimes we become drishya. When you're seeing me, I'm a drishya to you. When I'm seeing you, you're the drishya to me, I'm the drashta. So there is a drishya drishta vyavahara, but in all cases, it is the same Atma. The vastu remains the same. One Swami Kandananda had given a very beautiful example. He says, if you look at any sport, let's say you are watching a soccer game. So in the soccer game, there is in fact an interplay, that is vyavahara. So there is a team A and a team B, and both are trying to score against each other, and they play offense and defense, and they do a lot of different things and so on. But then there is a referee. So if you are a fan of any of these teams, then you have a different aspect, you have a different relationship to the team. If the team wins, you become happy. If it loses, then you're unhappy. But supposing you are a referee, the referee is independent of who loses or who wins. plays without any emotion, simply observes and says, foul, no, that was not right. Yes, this is good. Okay, change hands. And it has absolutely no involvement with the action. It oversees the action and it actually controls the action, but without really participating in the vyavahara. Avyavaharyam. This is the referee. If the referee were to start taking sides, will it stay as a referee? Well, can it be impartial? If it starts to become emotionally involved in one side or the other, then all kinds of problems occur. You are no longer uninvolved, you become involved. You're no longer independent of any emotional problems that occur, because you get emotionally involved. All kinds of problems occur. So therefore, we should recognize that I am basically avyavaharyam, but I don't understand that I don't need to be involved. And so what happens is that I get myself involved in one or the other. And I start taking sides. And I'm no longer neutral. I don't enjoy the asangatvam. I am no longer the asanga, because I become sangha. So being avyavahar, I don't need to be avyavaharyam. So supposing there is a referee who starts to like one team or the other and starts to favor them. Problems. Similarly, the Atma is avyavaharyam, but I get involved in one side or the other. So this is what is called dvandva atitam. So what happens is this: I no longer stay as the avyavaharyam. I like good experiences, and I start disliking bad experiences. I am no longer partial. I'm no longer impartial, rather. I become partial. And as a result, I lose my independence. So it is said, this is what is called your independence from situations, that you get so involved in mine and me, my family, my children, my grandchildren, that you start taking sides. You are no longer avyavaharyam. You become vyavaharyam. And as a result, you take on the winnings and losses of that team. So if you begin to favor your own children, then you are now selling yourself into into an emotional attachment which no longer keeps you avyavaharya. Now you become influenced by the winnings and losses. Whether if your children are doing well, you are also doing well. If you're not doing well, if they're not doing well, you're also not doing well. You are attached to it. You don't look upon the others as being equal in your view. So really speaking, this is what is recommended, is that if you want to look at yourself as alakshanam, adrishtam, achintyam. Achintyam means that they are also your buddhi makes judgments. This is good, this is bad. You take sides and therefore you become avyavaharya. But if you were to become a viragi, see, this is what is so beautiful in life, which I have also found in my life, is that if you become, they're not necessary to take up physical sannyasa. Not necessary. But internal sannyasa is the real thing. That means you are no longer affected by what is happening out in the world. Because it's just happening. But you begin to take sides. I would love to go to such and such country to visit. I've got to see Africa. If I don't go there, then I'm not happy. Or I'll be happier if I go and see the animals in Africa. So you start to have likes and dislikes. And which is fine in the earlier parts of the life. But eventually you should see that even all the likes and dislikes are simply variations of your own self. And so that is where the Chit Swarupatvam and the Sat Swarupatvam becomes more visible to you, more palpable to you. And the more you do that, you become avyavaharyam, alakshanam, adrishtam. So this is an exploration of the Atma through words, through concepts. Because until you are able to distinguish between what is a lakshana and what is a vastu, the Maya Shakti will play havoc with you. So this is the sense of the seventh mantra, which we are now coming to an end, probably by the next week, next time we meet. We won't have a class next week because of Swami Swatma Vidyananda is here. So we will meet 2 weeks from now. Then we will hopefully conclude the seventh mantra. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityormamritam gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. What is a Good. Good to have you. And we will see you in the next class 2 weeks from now. All right. Hariho.